know, if there's two things you can count on in the springtime, it's this. One is rain, right? And it's just pouring down rain here. I'm at Lake of the Ozarks, and in fact, I had to get off the lake. I've been here catching bass the last 2 or 3 days, and I just had to get off the lake. It's thunderstorms. In fact, we've got tornado warnings, and none of us need to be fishing in that, right? But the other thing that we can always count on in the springtime is wind. Now, wind, none of us like to fish in it, particularly if it's strong. But I'm going to take you fishing with me today, and I want to show you something, because in the springtime and also in the summer, the wind can be your friend if you use it to your advantage. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what happens is when the wind blows consistently for 2 or 3 or 4 days in a row from the same direction, you're going to create a current in that body of water. I don't care if it's a pond, a small lake, or a reservoir. And when you create a current, particularly across points, bait fish will move up onto these points, and they'll relate to that current. Well, bass then follow the bait fish. And so what I'm going to take you fishing on today is we're going to be fishing a small lake out of my small boat, and we're going to be fishing in a cove off of the main lake, and the wind's blowing maybe 30 miles an hour. You probably can't tell it on the film really, except that I'm bouncing all over the place, so I apologize. You know, it's not the best video because of that. But we're going to catch a lot of fish, and we're going to do it in 2 ways. We're going to fish the windy points with small crankbaits that run anywhere from 3 to 5 feet deep, and then you're going to see that I find some fish on my graph. If you watch carefully, you'll actually see fish suspended over 13 foot of water, and they're at about 8 foot. And I change crankbaits. I get a crankbait that dives basically 8 feet. I throw out a buoy marker so I know where those fish are. I back off and I catch the fish that we actually see on the graph. And those fish they're relating to the point, but they're off in deeper water suspended in 8 foot of water, but I'm still catching them on the point. The fish I'm catching on the smaller crankbait that dives 3 or 4 feet deep, they're literally up in shallow water right on the point. So use the wind as your ally. I know it can be tough, okay? I realize that. But, and I don't want you to do it if it's dangerous, of course. But in situations where you get wind from the same direction, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, go find a pocket like this, like I'm getting ready to show you on this film. Fish the points. Now, some of these points are very obvious. Some of them you won't be able to see on the film because they're kind of subtle points underwater. But look what happens when you catch these fish moving up on these points after you've had 2 or 3 or 4 days of windy weather. It's unbelievable. So until next time, this is Clay Dixon, LearnToBassFish.com. Thanks for being with us. All right, well, we got over here by this tree, throwing this big old crankbait down there, and we caught us a nice fish, huh? Boy, that wind is blowing. All right. Well, only made about 3 casts and we caught one. Try it again. Make a long cast, crank it down, pause it, pull it, change the cadence until you find out something that they're interested in hitting. That's the key. Bigger fish. Bigger fish. Not a giant, but a bigger fish. That's what I'm talking about. Woo! There's a chunk. What do you think of that deal? Throwing a crankbait on all this wind, these little windy points is all I'm doing. Fishing 12-pound test monofilament. Because I don't care that these little crankbaits get that deep to start with. There's one right there. Oh, another good fish. Another chunky fish. All over these windy points. There's another one. You can catch fish like this. Just don't be afraid of the wind anytime. I don't care if it's, you know, what season of the year it is, but particularly in the springtime, get on these windy banks, especially on these points, secondary points where these fish are staging up, getting ready to move into spawn. Cloudy day, windy day. These fish will move in even shallower. 58-degree water temperature. Parallel these banks, keep your fish in the strike zone, your lure in the strike zone as long as you possibly can. All I was trying to do is get up here and come back down with the wind, and I was casting on the way up there, and boom, I catch a bass. Man, I'm telling you guys, if you're not out here on these windy spring days, particularly a day or two before it's going to rain, and catch this weather like this, 58 to 60-degree water temperature, you're crazy, because this is what it's all about. Fishing doesn't get any easier or any more fun than this. I'll tell you that. There he is, right there. I just paused it. That's a bass, I think. Whoa, maybe not. He's peeling line a little bit. Oh yeah, that is a bass. A little bass pulling line. You're not that big, buddy. Not that big, but you're pretty nice. You're pretty nice. Yes, sir. Right off that windy point where I caught one earlier today. Whew. Sitting in 13 foot of water. I can see fish on my graph. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not in all this shadow and stuff, but oh man, did he kill it, and he missed it. Alright, I'm making long casts because I want to get down. I want this crankbait to get down there as deep as I can for as long as it will. Yes. Whoa, that's a little bigger fish. Oh, don't tell me he got off. No, he didn't. He's not that big, but he sure is a feisty one. Now that's those fish. I don't know if you can see them on the camera or not, but those fish that are down there suspended about 8 foot down off this point. You can kind of see maybe that little point that comes out right there underwater. I don't know if you can or not, but that's where that fish came from, suspended down there about 8 foot. Same fish we just saw on our graph unit there. Let's get back in there and try that again, huh? There's a better fish right there. Oh, there's a better fish. Look at that, boys and girls. Woo! A little better fish. Well, as you can tell, we caught a lot of fish here. A lot of the smaller fish were 2, 3, 4 feet of water. The bigger fish you saw that we caught were catching 6, 8, 10, even down to 12, 14 foot of water. Here's the bottom line. Get out here this spring. You know, don't be afraid of the wind. It can be your ally right now. Look for these long points, secondary points, little subtle points back in cuts like this. That's where these fish are, that's where they're staging and getting ready to, to go in and do their thing for the springtime. So anyway, I hope you learned something today. Bye.